Before you begin your copying of the artist's work, you need to ensure that you have all of the colours that you will need to create your piece of work effectively. So do lay out your pencils next to your work. Lay it next to your drawing and your picture that you are copying. Make sure that the colours are accurate to the colours that you can see on the original painting by Georgia O Keefe. Make sure you have every colour you will need and make sure it is accessible to you within arm's reach, because it makes it easier to make a copy if you are not worrying about where the coloured pencils you will need are. The first thing I wanted to do was to look at the darkest areas of my section first. I started off with an under layer of black and then lightly applied the red on top. Doing this meant that I was able to control how dark I wanted the area to be by not committing to heavy pressure, which creates a darker colour. So a darker shade of red was needed, but it needed to be the right shade of red. So I started off with the darkest area, and then the areas also after that were more a block, so they were more even in tone and in shade. The next section, you can also see that I've also done a bit of black for the underlayer, then I've worked on top with the red. Now you can decide to work in whichever way you feel comfortable. It could be that you find that working with the colour first and then doing the black on top of it helps. I decided to use the black first. Next I decided to apply some pink, and I decided to use the white to tone down the pink and to make it much more neutral, much lighter in its tone. You can see in the edge there as well, I've also saw some black, and I also saw how that black mixes with the pink to make sort of a darker pink, a darker shade of pink. In this larger section here, I did start off experimenting with just some pink and then using the white to tone it down and to sort of get it to blend black back into the paper, I should say. Next you can see there is some red, or some reddy pink around the corners, and I decided to put that in there as well. The key is just to be looking at your subject, looking at your example that you're drawing, and really and truly the case is trying to figure out the colours that you have and how does that relate to the colours in the original picture. Start off with the areas that you find most notable. So it was obvious to me that the darker shades stood out than the lighter shades. So I felt it was really important that the darker shades in each area were correct, because they were blending into the lighter shades, which were larger in terms of the overall area that had those lighter shades of colour. So again, you see I'm starting off with the black, because the black and the darker shades are really obvious to my eye. So I wanted to ensure that those darker shades were correct first. I was using the sides of my pencil. You can also notice that I kind of switch between the tip and the sides. The sides of the pencil create sort of a lighter tone, whereas the tip of your pencil is darker because you apply more pressure. You push down harder when it's the tip of your pencil as opposed to the side. This section here as well, I've started off with a pink, just trying to map out where the pink actually goes in that section, and then the white there to kind of soften up the edges of those pick pencil marks to get them to bleed back out into the original white of the paper. Once I feel that section is done, I moved on to the last section, which was a lot more straightforward. A mixture of yellow and orange. Sort of a really saturated yellow there, and then topped off with a little red mark. And that's the end.